What were the main American and Soviet objectives during the taunt? What is the taunt?
It is the name given to a period of improved relations between the United States and the Soviet Union that began tentatively in 1971 and took decisive form when President Richard Nixon visited the Secretary General of the Soviet Communist Party, Leonid Brezhnev, in Moscow in May of 1972. It was a period of relaxation of tensions between the US and the Soviet Union. At this time, an effort was made to find common points between their interests through negotiations. All this to ensure their survival.
One of these two powers' first and main objectives was to initiate talks to lessen the nuclear danger and an arms race without restrictions. After the Cuban Missile Crisis, it was discovered how dangerous relations between the USSR and the United States were becoming. But besides, they were aware that the barriers of mutual control had been overcome so that if they didn't do something about it, they could cause MAD, mutually assured destruction, and in addition to a large scale nuclear war. Before the attempt began in 1968, the two superpowers and other countries signed the Treaty on the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons. It prohibited the manufacture and acquisition of atomic weapons or other nuclear explosive devices by countries that lack them, and it proposed international control over the use of nuclear energy. Negotiations for the limitation of strategic weapons began in 1969 with a series of treaties encompassed under the acronym SALT, Strategic Arms Limitation Talks, which led to the signing in Moscow of the SALT First Agreement in 1972. This document put a limit on the construction of strategic armaments. It fixed a number for the intercontinental missiles (ICBM) and the missile launchers installed in submarines (SLBM) that the USSR and the USA owned. Then, near of June 18 in 1979, Soviet leader Leonid Brezhnev and the United States President Jimmy Carter met in Vienna's city to sign a new version of this treaty, in which the amounts of weapons that the powers could have were specified. In 1971, nuclear parity was established between these two powers, which Soviet leaders had strongly desired.
The idea was to pursue political goals, support friendly regimes and movements, and subverting adversaries. To continue with their process of détente, they signed the SALT Agreement to cover the prevention of accidental military clashes. Congress approved this agreement. In turn, a 3-year trade agreement was authorized to sell cereals to the Soviets, which, economically talking, was in trouble and had to look to foreign trade partners and investment.
Military expenditure, it says that the expenditure by the United States during the Cold War was between 8 and 9 trillion dollars. 382 Americans were killed because of direct enemy action during the Cold War. Those military actions between 1945 and 1991 went beyond the scope of the Korean and Vietnam Wars, and as a side effect of that, the Cold War causes the US and USSR to invest trillions of dollars in nuclear weapons, also starting to explore space. This caused that in 1962 both countries have missiles pointed at each other, for example, the Cuban Missile Crisis. Another threat that the war creates to the world is exposure to radiation. This was the new threat to the war history. Moreover, you know how the Soviet Union is. It didn't want an alliance between the Chinese and American. But why? Well, since the Cold War, the separation among China and the USSR helped the US to start negotiations and establish relations directly with China and plan a counterattack against the USSR. Relations between China and the United States have generally remained stable, with some periods of tension, especially after the dissolution of the Soviet Union, which eliminated a common enemy and ushered in a world characterized by American rule. Despite the rivalry of the Chinese-American relationship, both countries recognize the other not as an enemy but as an opponent or rival in some aspects and as an ally in other aspects, positioning the relationship as the second largest, strongest, and most important in the world.
For international business students, it's essential to develop this type of questions, since thanks to this, they will be able to find different ways to apply their knowledge. Also, they could visualize the various problems that could arise in a more global environment and evaluate how it could affect them. The history around everything we currently know allow us to contextualize ourselves and identify various persistent patterns throughout this. Yes, it was an exciting activity. In developing this, we were able to get to know each other more as people, colleagues, and students. In addition to this, we interact a lot and we got to understand different points of view on the topics discussed. In addition to this, we deepened our knowledge about this historical fact. It could be more attractive to the extent that we have more ideas and develop the activity in a more dynamic and fun way. It can also be more extraordinary if different topics are mixed to answer the fundamental question, making it more interesting. It's essential to see that these two signs are closely related to each other and can be of great help when using parallel. One of the things that they handle in common is the interest in international aspects, whether political or economic. Thus, if they work together, a lesser impact on international business can be observed in factors that block international relations, because IR is based on creating threats that are fundamental foundation for IBs. Similarly, both are based on carrying out different movements and jobs abroad, internationalizing all their obligations.